Hey, it's Dr. Balaman again. Today I'm talking about resilience. This is a really intense time for a lot of my patients, and I'm seeing a lot of symptoms of clenching, grinding, frustration. So just remembering tight jawed is a phrase for a reason, and when we're tight jawed, we tend to clench into our teeth, raise our shoulders, collapse our lungs, and create what's called hyperventilation syndrome. There's a lot to be tight jawed about right now. We are under siege on 5 fronts at least. Some of my patients, 6, 7, 8 fronts. It's a really intense time for a lot of people, and my heart goes out to everyone for compassion, and it's just a very challenging time. We want to recognize that we are under siege politically, regardless of what side we're on. We're under siege economically, no matter where we are in life. We're under siege socially, both public and private. We are under siege environmentally. We are under siege with our personal health. Some of my patients are undergoing a divorce. They've lost a family member. They've lost their homes or their livestock in the fires, or they've just been displaced by the fires, which is incredibly traumatic. This has been an incredibly difficult time for a lot of people. We have to remember that as humans, we normally deal with 1 to 2 a year. So to deal with 5, 6, 7, 8 right now, all at one time, is very intense. We normally have some comfort zones we can fall into. We can kind of deal with some of these things and then slip back into some comfort zones. We have no comfort zones right now. It's like being out in the sea on a ship in the middle of a huge storm, holding on to a lifeline with greasy fingers. You don't know how long your rope is, and you don't know how big that next wave is. It's a really intense time. Recognize this storm is going to go on for a while. This storm is going to keep going. It's got a life of its own, but it does not have to have a life within you. You do not have to give it safe harbor within yourself. It is safe, right, and good for you to be healthy, happy, and whole in this time, amidst this storm, especially in this storm. In fact, it's incredibly vital that you are safe, healthy, and whole within yourself right now, because that is your greatest self, and that is what the world needs. So I've come together with some ideas for people that they can hopefully take into their lives and use as tools. Like a bad relationship, we need to set boundaries. And the first boundary that I recommend that you set is take control of the conversation. Turn off all notifications. Don't let anyone else decide who, when, or what part of the conversation you're involved in. You decide. You set the time. You set the amount of time. I recommend that you take no more than an hour a day to do your due diligence. Don't do it first thing in the morning because it'll set the tone for your whole day. Don't do it last thing at night because it's going to set the whole tone for your whole sleep. Set aside a distinct time in the middle of the day when your brain has time to recognize this is my stuff, this is the world's stuff, and this is my stuff again. So that your brain has that ability to delineate what is my story and what is the world's story, because they're both going on. They're both valid, but you need to set some boundaries so you can be healthy, happy, and whole. It's really critical. So make sure it's a distinct hour. Don't dabble all day. Don't think, oh, I'm just spending a moment. I'm just spending a moment. If you dabble all day, that's toxic to your system. Set aside a time, 11 to 12, 12 to 1, whatever it is for you, whatever's right for you. If you need more time, I respect that. If you need less time, I respect that. You need to set the time that's right for you. So honor yourself, respect yourself, and set aside that time. It's super important. Boundary number 2 is a boundary for your own personal well-being. I recommend that you set an alarm for once an hour. Every time that alarm goes off, I want you to touch your tongue gently behind your front teeth and soften your jaw. So just touching the tip of the tongue right behind the front teeth, soften your jaw. That will start to calm your nervous system. Inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, exhale for a count of 8, 4 times. That will reset your body and reset its natural biorhythms. When we're under this much stress, we're running on fight or flight all the time. We don't even recognize it anymore. So take time to reset your body to its natural biorhythms. Turn off that fight or flight stuff and let your body come back to normal. And then smile and bring in some gratitude. Because when we're this stressed, our heartbeat becomes like a metronome. And that precision of beat is linked to heart disease, major organ disease, depression, and shorter life expectancies. We don't want that. Our heart should be playful. It should have a little of what's called heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is scientifically correlated to gratitude and breath. So take a moment, once an hour, touch, soften, inhale, pause, exhale slowly, be grateful, and let your heart soften with life. It's super important right now. The third boundary that I recommend is making your bedroom a sacred space. All too often, we kind of take it for granted that we have a safe place to sleep. It's a luxury that most of us get to enjoy. But it also tends to be a catch-all for whatever the dog drug in, the cat drug in, the kid drug in, the spouse drug in. Our bedroom just kind of becomes this catch-all space, and our sleep becomes something that we do at the end of the day, at the end of our to-do list if we have time. Right now, we need to prioritize good quality sleep because it's really important that we have quality and quantity. So I invite you to enter your bedroom and ask of every single thing that's in your bedroom, is this sacred to me? Does it invoke within me a sense of being loved, safe, or supported? If it doesn't evoke one of those emotions, I invite you to find a new home for it, either outside your home or within your home. If you're like some of my patients and you say, Doc, my house is 700 square feet and there is nothing moving anywhere, I have maximized my space and I don't have cash to buy something else, ask, how can I make it sacred? Can I give it a new coat of paint? Can I put a beautiful cloth over it? Can I set something on it that does evoke those emotions, and it can be that carrier vessel for something that does make me feel safe, loved, and supported? Because what we want to do is we want to capitalize on a natural part of our brain. When we go through a doorway or we enter and cross a threshold, our brain does an automatic reset. That's why when you go into a room and you go, why did I come in this room? And you have to go all the way back to where you started in order to figure it out. That's because your brain naturally resets when it goes across the threshold. So we want to capitalize on that. We want to set the tone. We want to engineer our environment so that when you cross that threshold to rest, your brain lets go. It doesn't automatic reset. It releases the stories of the day, the worries of the world. And instead, you're flooded with the emotions of being loved, safe, and supported. And so while you're sleeping, you're bathing in those healing emotions. And when you wake up, they're the first emotions that are triggered in your mind for the day, because science shows us that the first thought of the day sets the tone of the whole day. So we want to engineer our environment so that we're thinking positive thoughts and we're feeling loved, safe, and supported. Because if we fill our tank, we'll be more resilient as we move through the day. And that's really important right now. Now, some of my patients say, yeah, this Dr. Ballerman and all of her mumbo jumbo, I don't have time for that right now. The world is hitting me from all sides and it is crazy. And I just don't have time for this tongue, breath. I don't even remember how many I'm supposed to do. Just turn your head and look up. And that'll induce a nice big yawn. If it doesn't, then slowly move your eyes across the horizon to the other side and look up. And that will induce a nice big breath or a nice yawn. That just turned off all of the fight or flight systems in your body. Congratulations. It's super awesome. It's a great reset. The reason it works is when we're in fight or flight, our eyes are moving fast and close, and they're looking for danger in our immediate environment. When we have time to look at the stars, we're not in danger. So we're telling our body on a biologic, physiologic level that we're safe. And that's really important right now. So when the world gets too crazy, just pause, turn your head, and take a deep breath and let your body reset. Super important right now. The last request I'm asking of people, which some of my patients have literally gotten very angry with me, and I respect that. Others have a hard time with this, but many patients are very grateful that I'm bringing this to the conversation So I just keep soldiering on. I apologize if it steps on your toes. I know all of us are pushed to our limits right now. It's a very challenging time. But as a culture, we need to soften our conversations around death. In our culture, we tend to see it, sense it, smell it, taste it, hear it, anything, and we slam the door and run as fast as we can the other way. Or we tend to think we're going to biohack our way out of it. We're going to eat the right foods, exercise the right way, or do something where we're going to just kind of slide around that quiet little thing called death. But it's not going to happen. We all begin and we all end. And how we deal with death dictates our whole life. Because there's a little bit of death in a lot of things. There's a little bit of death in every change. And change is the only constant. If we soften our conversation, we allow ourselves to see that for every door that closes, another door opens. For every flower that fades, a seed is sprouting. For every force, there is an equal and opposite force. In the universe, this is a universal truth. And in this time of such great force, pushing us so hard, we need to soften so that we can see the seeds, the opportunities, the beautiful new beginnings that deserve our love and our attention right now. Those things that are our hope for our future really need us to soften so we can recognize them and bring them to their fullest fruition. I like people to think of it like having a blueprint of your inner home. On one side are the hallways of darkness. On the other are the hallways of light. If we travel too far down the hallways of darkness, we cannot see the light. If we travel too far down the hallways of light, we cannot see the darkness. If we fold our paper in half and we stand in the crease, we have access to everything within us, and that is our greatest self. When we soften our conversation, it allows us to walk our lives on that precipice, never tipping too far to either side, but allowing ourselves the fullest expression and our fullest greatness that we have to gift to the world. And that is what the world needs right now. Namaste.